name is Evangeline Campbell, and I did my Ferguson Fellowship project on Virginia state compliance with the Indian Child Welfare Act. And what I did is I broke my project down into 3 stages. The first being the background research phase, the second being the research phase and just identifying whether or not Virginia was compliant with the Indian Child Welfare Act, and the third stage being the implementation phase. So in the first phase, I did a lot of background research on my own. I looked into what the law was and really wanted to understand what the law said and how it should be implemented. So I read a few books and articles on the situation, but I also got some more insight through the Bureau of Indian Affairs. My mother, she is the division chief of the Human Services Division at the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and I talked to both her and her staff about the Indian Child Welfare Act and how the government understands the act and how it should be properly implemented. They're actually doing a project on a larger scale throughout the whole United States on state compliance with the Indian Child Welfare Act, but they're more focused on larger states with larger Native American populations, such as South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. And but I thought it was valuable to understand what they have been doing and how they're testing state compliance, so that when I test Virginia state compliance, I know what to look for. I also went to a conference called USET, which is the United Southern and Eastern Tribes Conference, and that was such a valuable experience because I got to meet many tribal representatives who were interested in the Indian Child Welfare Act, who are informed on it and wanted to understand the new 2016 regulations. And I got to hear the discussion that they were having on the problems that they were having with their states complying with this law, and the ideas that they had on how to foster a better relationship between the tribe and the state and how we can make compliance with this law better. So after doing all that background research and getting all of that information, I wanted to test whether or not Virginia was actually compliant with the law. The way I tested that is I looked at AFCAR data, which stands for Adoption and Foster Care Analysis Reporting. And they did reporting, when I first started, their reporting was from 2013, but then they also gave me, I also got sent the 2015 edition as well. But luckily what I found was that Virginia was actually compliant because there were no children who were adopted, Native American children who were adopted from Virginia, which showed that there was no inconsistency between the adoption notification decrees that the Bureau of Indian Affairs had and the reporting that Virginia has given to AFCAR, which I thought was great. That didn't mean that my project was completely over. I did want to see if people actually fully understood what the Indian Child Welfare Act is and how they should be acting. Now, I mentioned that I went to the USET conference, and one of the things that was mentioned there was that Indian child welfare needs to be worked on by multiple people. It's not just the state and the tribe working on it. The state needs to know the information. So do the social workers who are handling these children. The judges need to be involved in identifying whether or not there's a Native American child in the system, and so do the tribes. It's a group and a family of people who need to work together. What we decided to do after that was create a survey with very, very general questions that every social worker should know. Really basic questions, true or false. They weren't in depth. Basically, are you aware of the Indian Child Welfare Act? Does the Indian Child Welfare Act apply to Virginia? True or false? Things like that. Very general questions. There were only maybe 5 or 6 questions in actual ICWA law, and the other questions were on whether or not they would like to receive training and what county they're from. And what I got back was very interesting. Most people understand ICWA, and we're getting the questions right, which is great, and I am excited to know that our officials are aware of the ICWA law. But there were some discrepancies, and some people weren't completely aware of certain things, which is great, because that means that we can simply give them some training. And each and every person who responded to the survey did indicate that they would like to have training on ICWA law and the new regulations that were just passed in 2016. So after, that's basically where I am right now. I'm still collecting the survey data. The data is coming in very slowly, slower than I thought it would, but I'm also developing a video training. I've worked with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and they have a training that they usually do on the Indian Child Welfare Act, and I'm having it put together and making it into a video so that I could, for every person who responds to my survey and says, yes, I would like training on these new regulations, I can send them this quick link, and I'll say, here's this quick link here on the training, so that you can watch it as a group, or yourself, or as a group of your staff, so you can all get trained on the 2016 regulations. And I'll also pass on the names to my mother as well, so that she knows that there are these groups of people who want to be trained.